G'day everyone, how you going? I'm Peter White. Welcome to today's Q&A with Whitey. Hope you're all there, relaxed, ready to go, sitting down your lounge. I'm a slightly different view today, but I've come out a whole lot of committee meetings, so out of one thing into another, but you get that. So make sure you got your coffee ready to go. Hopefully you've got some morning tea with you. I'm being good and healthy, a little bit of cheese and some peanuts, not too many nuts. It spike my sugar levels, so I'm not careful. So anyhow, looking forward to today's conversation. But of course, firstly, need to say thank you to our sponsors who've supported us through our journey. So people like AAMC, Affordable Staff, ALI, AmFin, Credit Fix Solutions, Early Pay, Finstro, Heartland, Insurance Advisor Net, Notify, OnDeck, OptiPay, Pepper Money, Prosper, Strive Financial, and Trailbook Loans. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate your support. Today's conversation is going to be a lot of fun. And I'd like to welcome our guest today, Dineshs Silva. Dinesh, how are you going, my friend? Hello, Dinesh.
I'm here.
Very good. How are you, buddy?
Making sure the technology works.
Yeah.
I'm fabulous, Peter. Great to know that you've got your snack there. You've got your coffee there. I have my coffee here as well. So
very good. Morning tea is an important part of the day.
Good to go.
Well, that's my excuse anyhow, and we'll just run with it. Hey, look, mate, thanks very much for joining us today. And yeah, technology is great when it's worked. Yesterday, I was doing a live interview with Sky News and the technology crashed. The internet crashed on me. So wasn't too happy about that. Let me assure you. Not much you can do when you're live to air, but anyhow, we got through it all.
It's good. Yeah. I got a bit stunned when I saw that photo of mine. It looks so much better than what I look in real life. And that's why it took me a while to just turn my camera on.
You're admiring yourself. Well, that's a nice way to be.
Shocking.
Mate, it's all good. Hey, before we get too far in today's conversation, which I'm really looking forward to, talking about digital strategies, word of mouth referrals, building solid digital marketing infrastructures and cybersecurity, all really great conversations and very hot subject matters for our industry. But before we do that, we need to get to know you a little bit better. So what I'd like to do is give us a bit of a background story on the Dinesh journey. Like, what were you doing when you came out of school, and what were you doing across the years? We won't go into net stripes just yet, but we'll sort of pull up just before that. But give us a bit of background on you and the things you like so we can get to know you a bit better.
Well, it would be fair to say I'm a cricket tragic and I still play cricket. Not very well, though. Not very well. I realized that being a spectator wasn't good enough, so I still want to play. And, you know, and I play with a whole heap of young blokes who really sledge me. And so that's the best part of it, you know, the sledging you get. And when they see me, an older guy coming to bat, they try to kill me with their faster bowling. So that's all good. But more about...
Hey, do you find that's good? Those balls damn hurt.
They do. I have bruises all over me, and my wife is not too pleased because she reckons I'm just too old for this game, and which is true. But more about me, because of my love for Australia, I'm originally Sri Lankan. I went to school in Sri Lanka. I went to a British type of school called Royal College in Sri Lanka, and but I was a big Aussie fan because I followed the Ashes from the time I was about 9 years old, listening to it on the radio. So it probably reveals you my age now. Listening with my dad.
As long as you don't call it the wireless, because then you really will be shaved.
That's correct. That's correct. And my first Ashes memory was when Bob Massey took 16 wickets. I don't know whether you remember. That was a very long ago, right? So I'm telling a lot about myself without telling too much about myself. Okay. And as a result of that, when I was 18, I wanted to come to Australia to go to uni. And a lot of my family went to the US and to the UK to go to uni. And out of all places, I came to Bathurst in New South Wales. And that was because I was told by a friend that it was a residential college and the nightlife was very good.
And they have the V8 supercars in Bathurst, so it's even better.
Correct. So I like the racing. I still love the racing. I watch it. So I'm a Formula One tragic as well. So this is a bit about myself. I have 3 children. I actually was very lucky. I married this beautiful woman I met some time ago, way above my, above my, weight, as they say. And I have 3 kids from Sadia, and they're all grown up. And so I'm very fortunate, Peter. Let's put it that way.
Excellent. Excellent. So besides getting hit with cricket balls, what else do you do to relax? Because we all get very busy in our work environments and our careers. So what, besides cricket and getting slammed with cricket balls, what else do you do to relax? Anything, or is that mainly it?
Yeah, look, as a business, all of us here would be are business owners, right? And our life is a huge roller coaster ride. And we go, and we've gone through the GFCs a few years ago. Then we all these other crises. We went through the pandemic. Now we have this inflation crisis. So it's about making sure our fitness levels, our mind and body are working. And that is about your sleep, your water intake, your nutrition, like you talk about this, right? And making sure, I meditate and I pray as well. So all these things keep me in sync. So that's that's what I do.
Well centered. And it's amazing. And I don't think enough people think about or pay enough attention to their sleep. So I wear on this hand, that's a ring that's full of technology called a Aura ring. And so it's full of, probably can't see it on here, but it's full of sensors.
Right.
And although it does other things like activity during the day, but it's mainly about monitoring your sleep at night. So it tells you what your heart rate's been like, how your breathing's been, have you had disruptions in your breathing, what your sleep pattern's like, and when you were in REM sleep, deep sleep, all that sort of stuff, to help monitor the impacts of what you've done in the day to make sure you get a really good night's sleep. And I've been using this for ages. It just runs into an app on your phone. But it's interesting how, if you don't look after yourself during the day, how bad a night's sleep you get at night. And what you eat plays a large part of that as well, especially if you're eating lots at nighttime. That's not a good outcome, or alcohol. But the more you, I guess, understand the data, and as you say, business people and in an industry this is full of data, when you understand the data that sits around it, you sort of go, well, geez, if I do that, I'm going to have a really screwed night's sleep, and I'm going to be shot to pieces the next morning. And you can work it through and manage it, and because a good night's sleep for your health is paramount.
Absolutely.
All right, we've done that gig. Let's get on to what we're going to talk about today, because I'm really excited as to where this conversation is going to go. So the opener for us is digital strategies for finance brokers. What works and what doesn't. So let's before we do that, just give us a brief background on NetStripe, because I guess that fills out the professional credentials to have this conversation. So tell us about NetStripe, what it does, and what you're doing within that group or within your company.
Yeah, so NetStripe was founded about 9 years ago by myself and 2 other co-founders. And the main reason we realized that we needed to do this was because at that time, I had 2 friends who were very good friends of mine, who were very good business people.
Yep.
And suddenly their businesses started really struggling. One of them lost everything. These guys were really wealthy people. He lost everything. They had to sell off everything and then go and rent in the Gold Coast. They were in Sydney, had a 5-acre property in a beautiful area, sell everything, and had to rent. The other guy, I don't want to talk about it because it upsets me. So, so these personal stories help you to take a deeper look at what is happening. And before that, I used to work for large corporations and go and look at how they can use technology to help their businesses through innovation. Okay. Yep. innovate to grow their businesses. And I do this for corporations.
Yeah.
And when this happened to my friends, we spoke to some digital agencies, etc., and they said, small businesses don't have money, they're a pain in the ass to work with. Sorry about my language, but that's exactly what they said. Typically, people didn't want to work with small business because they had very low budgets.
Yeah.
And we really knew small businesses, these guys understood their industries intimately because they worked in these industries massively. So how can we help them to innovate? Because they understand the industries intimately, which means they know what works, they know what sucks. And it is in changing what sucks that you create innovation.
Yeah.
And small business owners didn't have to be victims of disruption. They, in fact, could be the party to a disruption.
Right.
They could be the creators of disruption. Yeah, so NetStripes is built for that. And today, NetStripes is a platform to help small businesses to get their strategy right, to nail their strategy, the branding, their website, their marketing, so that they can take their businesses to a completely different level.
Yeah. And you've also, I might be phrasing slightly wrong, but you've also written a couple of books and rather extensive research pieces that you've given to government and so on as well. Do you want to just talk a little bit about those? I mean, because there are some extensive pieces of work with some magnificent insights.
Yeah, so when we started, so all three of our founders come from, professional backgrounds. So when we started NetStripes, we hired 2 researchers and we researched 8,700 small businesses. And this research showed us why small businesses were struggling.
Yep.
And so with this research, the first thing we went to Canberra and met the small business minister, the federal small business minister. Imagine getting as a small business and a startup ourselves to get a meeting with the federal minister was not easy. But my co-founder, one of my co-founders is Dineshs, and she went and we got us this meeting. We presented the data. They realized what needed to be done, and a lot of government has done a lot since then for small business.
Yeah, mate, that's excellent. We all should be very thankful for the work that you've done there, and be able to reach into the minister and to actually affect change and influence thoughts and ideas on what needs to be done. I mean, I sit on the board of, or the advisory board, I should say, of the Small Business Association for these very reasons that our industry, every broker in this country is a small business person. So it's all well and good to do what the FBAA does on the lending side and the broking side, but we also can never forget that everyone here is a small business person, and we need to look after that environment as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. All right, let's jump into digital strategies for finance brokers. What works and what doesn't? So tell me more about what, I guess, where you see what digital strategies look like. Because at the moment, it's a big question for industry. It's a big question here for our board at the association, looking at what the next 5 to 10 years brings. Where does digital enhancements take us? What are the strategies we need to employ to deal with that? So where do you see that sort of looking like and hitting into brokers, and what do you think works and what doesn't? So I'm sure there's lots of things to be learned by what doesn't work somewhere.
Yeah, so it really leads to that point, and a lot of brokers will find this. Nearly every broker would have, when they started their business, one of the first things they would have done was to go and build a website. And they've got a website. Then somebody would have said, go and do some social media, go and do some SEO, go and do all this stuff. And what happens is you go and invest in all these activity and building this so-called infrastructure, which you think is essential, but having made that investment in time and effort and money, which is very little, as you start a business, when you don't get a return, it's very frustrating. And so that's what doesn't work, because just going through and doing the activity without taking a step back and thinking through the strategy of our business, okay? And when it comes to digital, you can't do strategy and think of your customer in a broader sense of they're in this age group, they're in this geography, or most people say, I want to be a broker. I want to help everybody and anybody. I want to do A to Z.
Yeah.
Right. So my question then is, of course, you can provide a to Z service, but you've got to really make sure your customer is absolutely narrowed. You're absolutely clear of who you're serving.
Yeah.
So what people are not doing is they're not understanding who their ideal customer is, and they're going way too broad. What happens is when you go way too broad and try to serve everybody, everybody and anybody is also your competition. So there are 18,000 brokers. The last time I spoke to you, I think it was 18,000. I don't know whether that has grown or somewhere around that. Maybe I got that number wrong, but it's
down there.
Yeah. So then you can't compete with everybody. So it's really essential we understand our ideal customer in a really narrow sense. Just to give you an example, instead of going really broad, you could say my ideal customer is a busy, professional couple who both are working. They're in their 30s to 40s, mid 40s. They have young children. As a result of their young children, they're really busy with their work. They come back, have to put the children to sleep, don't have a social life. So when we know them in detail, we can get our messaging right and our solutions right to cater to those people in detail.
Yeah.
So we had a broker who would help retail workers and everybody else in Brisbane, who suddenly got her strategy right to help these professional couples. So instead of doing average loan sizes of about 300 to 500, she went to about $1 to $2 million loan size. And her messaging was so clear because she knew the problem. These people had no time to deal with banks because banks were not flexible. So her messaging was, I'm flexible. I will spend the time with you. I understand your needs. And it was for professional couples and entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And Dinesh, I guess it's the same as that approach is that, it's too broad to say, come and talk to me because I do home loans versus targeting in on professionals. So I used to run a private banking suite back in the 2000 era, and it was targeted at high income, high net wealth individuals because they were time poor.
Yes.
And we would do it all for them.
Absolutely.
And that's what they wanted. They wanted a good deal, but if somebody did the work for them, that was a greater priority than necessarily other things, even though they weren't unimportant. But it was being able to say, well, that's the segment of the market I'm targeting. Or conversely, even in my early days in the banking sphere, well, it's not early days of banking sphere, but early days for banking when we were doing mobile lending. So in a company called Advanced Bank, it doesn't exist anymore. It was taken out by St. George, but I was a part of the mobile lending team in Advanced Bank, or the fast track. But I still vividly remember and recite the story of doing a home loan for a husband and wife couple who were nurses and were working a 3-week shift. That meant they didn't get home till midnight. Right. And they invited me to have dinner with them at 1 a.m. in the morning. And no one else would do it. I said, yeah, I'll be there. But it was targeting a certain marketplace. And then took me on another journey with people who are working those sort of weird shift hours. I did it for truck drivers and all sorts of things. You meet them on a highway at midnight because that's when they're driving through to do a truck lease. But delivering on a certain specific that suits that demographic, that sort of people, rather than being so broad, you almost catch nothing because you're competing with everybody else. Absolutely.
And you asked me what works and what doesn't work. And really, once you've nailed your customer strategy, or you've identified your customer strategy, then you've got to get your messaging right to these people. And the messaging has to be delivered visually and in language. so that when they see your message on a website or a social media or on a FBAA conference pamphlet, bang, the message goes between their eyes to that. Yeah. And then only build your website and everything else, you know, so.
Yeah, I was just about to say, so the website and social media is all important stuff, but it's got to have strategic focus. Would that be fair?
Yes, yes. So you got to get that messaging right based on the strategy. And then, you know, to be treated like a pro, you need to look like a pro. Because consumers of today, they are used to having a world-class experience on all the platforms they work with. So when they come to your platform on your website, you need to look world-class. If you do look any less, they're gone.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a very interesting point. I mean, I see some, and probably the same as you, Dinesh, but some real variances in websites. And you sort of go, yeah, that doesn't do it for me. Yeah, you see other things go, that's really slick, that's really good. And I guess there's are there sort of some tips and tricks around websites, or is it just the fact you've got to put a bit of time and effort into it and make them look smart, professional, and a half-assed job just isn't good enough?
Absolutely, Peter. You know, you got to absolutely nail it. What I mean by that is there are 12 points you have to really get it right. Out of the 12 points, if you don't nail 11 of them, it doesn't work, okay? Because consumers spend 2 to 4 seconds, and I have shown this in some of the webinars that we run. They give us 2 to 4 seconds before they decide to stay or to leave.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so within that 2 to 4 seconds, you need to capture their attention. And there is mechanisms you can do to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, we won't give away the secret sauce, but that's what NetStripe specializes in. But it's interesting to know that you know you've got 2 to 4 seconds to capture someone, otherwise they're gone elsewhere.
Yes.
So important piece to get right, one would think.
Yeah. And talking about the secret sauce, we have shared those 12 points on our FBAA webinar. So we're fairly open.
No, that's we very much appreciate that. And with the social media piece around this, is it a similar sort of thought process as it is to the website? You've got to get your message right. I mean, to me, in social media, you've got to be able to punch a message out very clearly and succinctly. Otherwise, people just flick on to the next thing or delete it.
Yep. In social media, it's very similar. So you mentioned about taking that strategic approach on your website. So once you do your strategy and get your messaging right, so there must be what's called brand consistency. It's the same visuals and the same messaging, that same message that you have to transmit through social media, so that when they see you on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube and they go to your website, it's the same messaging that you're delivering to the same audience. And they go, so that's how you build trust, you know. And you know, you first must have what's called brand consistency. That's consistency of message and through visuals and language. But then you got to make sure that in social media, you can't just, it's also about consistency of how often you're seen. And you know, that today, unfortunately, your brand has to be seen by over 10,000 people a month. Yeah. Right. You have to reach over 10,000 people a month. And because of the competition in every industry, your industry is no different in every industry. And there's so much noise out there, brand has to be seen 10 to 16 times. Right. So how do you get that message out? And that, again, that has to be.
That's interesting, because if I reflect back in the days when I was quite heavily involved in advertising on TV and so on, I think the data you said, it takes 3 to 5 times for people to get the message through.
Yes.
And you're saying 10 to 15 times people need to see it. Is that just the way markets have changed and the amount of noise that's in the market, that if you don't do that, you're just growing noise that nobody pays attention to?
So, you know how you said 3 to 5 times, and that would have been absolutely right at that time.
I'm talking 20, 30 years ago, mind you.
Yeah. So you take it about 10 years ago, maybe 12 to 10 to 12 years ago, it was about 6 times.
Ah,
About
right.
6 times. And then it's about 16 times really now.
Wow.
So that's the right number, but I don't think you don't have to wait 16 times to get a result, but it's just that, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. It's a lot. So
It takes time and commitment. Yeah.
yeah, and I think, you know, everything you're saying here, it comes back to, I think, one of the first points. It's all about strategy. It's all about, you know, what that strategic direction and placement that you have, that target you're reaching for. If you don't have your strategy in place, none of this plays out particularly well.
100%. So if we don't sit down first and get our strategy right, then everything is out. But as you know, with strategy, you can't set a strategy if you're not 100% clear of your business goal. What's your financial goal for the next 12 months? What's your financial goal for the 12 months after? A lot of business owners, you'd be surprised, including financial planners, accountants that we deal with. I'm not talking mortgage brokers, I'm talking financial planners and accountants who are the very people who help us. Because when it comes to themselves, they don't have a clear financial goal for themselves. So we start with deciding and helping business owners to say, what's the financial goal for the next 12 months? Let's set the strategy to the best possible way to achieve it the fastest way. So to give you an example, I'll use a round figure. If somebody's trying to build a business, they're starting out, they want to earn $200,000 in commissions. What's the smartest way to do that? So if you get a target between $1 to $2 million customers, and you get your messaging in that vein, you probably need way less customers than trying to get $300,000 to $500,000 mortgages. So that's where the strategy comes to play.
I guess depend where people are based these days. A loan size of that, you know, around the $1 million is pretty common. The way property prices are and trying to get deposits together, especially on the east coast of the country, kind of say that there's an interesting market there to be focused in on and strategic. I guess the message of the day is strategy, folks. Make sure you got a strategic plan in place, and I would presume you should review that strategic plan on a very regular basis and shoot for the stars. So let's go on the next piece here. Word of mouth referrals. So it's always interesting. We're talking about digital strategies and so on, and now so I say, well, word of mouth referrals, do they actually work on their own these days? Because, you know, the old days, when I was out hitting the pavements, always trying to get a referral, that word of mouth referral was a pot of gold. But these days, with the advent of social medias and so on, is it so important, or is it still very important?
It's actually very important. It's essential, really, when you think about it. And most business owners today, you speak to most brokers, all their leads, most of their leads still come from referrals from referral partners, from customers and friends and family. So what it also tells us is it also reveals that our marketing is not working if you're still depending on that. And we all know that with word of mouth marketing is essential. However, you can't really depend on it to scale your business. You can't. So that's where you got to build a brand. You've got to get your marketing right. You've got to get your website right. And by getting and to do this won't happen overnight. You need to do it with a certain degree of patience to a plan. So
that's going to work for me. I have no patience. My wife keeps telling me that.
You are very patient. The way the marketing works for the FBAA. I was on your YouTube channel. The way you're doing your publicity, I saw on LinkedIn today or yesterday, I think the PR FBAA has received. So this hasn't been built yesterday, Peter. You've done this over a long period of time. Yeah, you've invested in it. You followed a process. You worked probably with the same partners, if I'm not wrong. You haven't stopped cut and chop partners, and when things went right, you try and fixed it, you know. And you can see all that through the results you're getting. By the way, coming back to word of mouth marketing, digital, however, can really help you to systematize the word of mouth marketing.
Yep.
And really amplify that if you do that. Yeah, so that's what
it's sort of like a system to process to actually get the optimal results out of whether it's word of mouth or digital. Can one complement the other, or do they complement the other, or
absolutely.
How does that flow?
So a very important part of digital is referral marketing.
Right.
And to get your referral marketing right, it's part of the strategy to work out, what type of referral partners can help us to get to that target market, but we can't depend only on them, right? So it is creating a system is with a bunch of checklists to remind you and to do these things consistently, which digital helps, but also to take your brand in front of those partners digitally, those referral partners that you're targeting, that you win. You've got to plan ahead, right? So some of these partners you won't win for the next year, the next 2 years, etc. But
some of them looking on for years and years.
That's correct. But you've got to start, and that's how you build a really robust business.
Yeah, I guess it's that resilience to continue on. I know a classic example for me, and it sort of works in my head as a parallel, that when we did our first national conference, we did it in Sydney, and it was an absolute disaster. Only about 35 to 40% of the people showed up. The heavens opened in Sydney in a manner it hadn't done for like a decade. So it was belting down rain for 3 days. So the weather was terrible. The amount of people that didn't show up was quite disturbing. And it was in the era, and you'll like this little story, Max Walker, the Australian cricketer. He was our MC, and actually, whilst he was alive, became a mentor to us in the conferences. And after we'd finished, we did a bit of a debrief of that. And he said, Whitey, you just got to step up to the plate and bat again. And that's what we did. And over the years, we took it from this disaster in Sydney to now being the leading industry conference in our country. With around 1,000 attendees every year. So it's interesting, that resilience to keep at it, to keep focused, to understand your strategy. And we did it with the conference. We always have done it down in SeaWorld. Slight change this year. We're going to Royal Pines for the day and Movie World at night. But, it's that keeping that focus, I guess, and having that strategy and direction to keep going. That it's not always a straight line as we'd like, and it doesn't always happen overnight.
That's correct.
But you've got to have that tenacity and resilience, and use these systems that are here, whether the digital systems, word of mouth, and understanding, I guess, how to make these all integrate to be successful. Because you're not in business to be a charity, so that isn't the game either.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, word of mouth marketing is essential, but with the messages, don't depend on it. Don't depend on it.
Yeah. Very good. Hey, the next little subject we're going to chat about was around what does it take to build a solid digital marketing infrastructure, and how long does it take? What's sort of involved in doing that solid digital marketing infrastructure?
It's a big word, right? Solid digital marketing.
It took me a bit to get through it. It was a big word. Little ones of one syllable, but they work for me.
It's a lot, but it's like anything, right? What you build for the FBAA is that infrastructure. Once you build that infrastructure from a marketing perspective, there are systems and processes that create it and build upon it. And I can go into the nitty-gritty of infrastructure a bit later, but I want to first say, go back to something we discussed earlier. In our industry, in this finance industry, it's a highly competitive industry, but also consumers to deal with us want to be able to trust us because they're talking about their money. They're going to talk to us about their earnings, and they need to be really comfortable before they contact us, okay? To know that we are not dodgy, because there are a lot of dodgy providers in every industry, every industry, right? Whether it's banking, whether it's legal, medical, plumbing, every industry. So people have been bumped. So the first question is that how do we build trust? And again, digital and marketing helps us to do this. It's called brand awareness.
Yeah.
In the past, brand awareness was very expensive. We had to advertise on television, newspapers, run conferences like you were talking about, and it takes a lot. Today, we can do this fairly inexpensively through digital, but you must have patience. Firstly, you need to commit that I want to build this marketing infrastructure.
Yep.
And brand awareness, to create that, you need to reach tens of thousands of your consumers each month. And you need to do it monthly over a period of time so that then people have seen you over a period of time. Once they've seen your brand, like you said, 3 to 5 times, but really 6 to 10 times, they say, hey, these guys, I've seen them before. Let's have a look at them. They might come into your website. Yep. That's when they have a need, brand recall. That's called brand recall. And so this marketing is all about brand awareness and brand recall, brand awareness and brand recall. So at the beginning, any broker, when they start up, if they go and check the data, you were talking about the data on your ring, they'll have less than 1 to 2 visitors a day on their website. And when we start marketing, that's the reality. And we discussed this with the business owners. Yep. But to get real results, you need to have between 15 to 30 per day coming to your website. That's when the brand recall is working.
Yeah.
So this is the outcome we want if we are to get results. So to use a mortgage broking example of another mortgage broker who's done this, when they came to us, they had about 0.5 visitors a day on their website in a 90-day period. 0.5. They went from 0.5 to about 5 to about 6. Suddenly, they went to about 7. They went from 7 to 15. Yeah. 15 to 20, 20 to 30 a day. Now they have about between 40 to 50 a day.
Wow.
Now they're getting lots of leads coming through.
Yeah.
So because their infrastructure is working. So how do you build that infrastructure? So then you had to go to the nitty-gritty. Nailing your strategy, nailing your website, nailing your marketing, making sure you're consistent. You are consistent with what you're doing. You can't have a stop-start system. It takes patience. Sometimes, some customers, some brokers. I was talking to somebody who yesterday, a broker in Maryborough, New South Wales, right? He's saying, look, I have my next 3 to 4 months I'm sorted for, okay? And he's been doing it only for about 3 to 4 months, I think. So he's getting results a bit faster. Some people will take 9 months. Yeah. Right? So it doesn't happen overnight. So you need to, be able to make that commitment, and it's not expensive, but you've got to make that commitment.
My light went out. Oh yeah.
We still can see you.
Yeah. Bloody sensors. It's interesting. And I guess with that trust piece that people are trying to achieve, and I guess when they come through from the marketing initiative and into the website, they'd be looking for that transparency of information. And in that transparency, what's been put there is something that is factually truthful. We know in the Royal Commission back around 2018 that without transparency, the truth, trust was not engendered.
That's correct.
So when people come to your website, they're looking for transparent, truthful information to be able to say, well, I actually do trust you. I've followed you on a bit of a journey, whether it's that brand awareness piece.
Yes.
Hit the website and go, yeah, this works for me, and I can see this, or I understand this, and I want to reach out further to trust you with my business.
So this is a hugely important aspect that you're talking about here. So when people come to a website, if you're making assertions, and you haven't validated those assertions. People are going to think this is bullshit. This is crap. People are very skeptical when they come to us. They're saying, are they dodgy? Are they dodgy? So if you go and say, we are the number one broker, or we have the best interest rates, you better validate that. And if you are the number one broker, you can validate it by saying, I'm the number one for 2022 based on the FBAA award I won, and here's that. Okay. But if you don't validate that, they think that's crap. And they're not saying that's crap, they're saying you're crap.
Yeah. I guess that's the bigger thing, isn't it? As soon as they see that, they say, yeah, well, that's BS. That doesn't play out. So, how can I ever trust you?
Yeah, I'm going. Because when they Google, there are so many other alternatives, and they don't always come through Google. And if you depend on Google, you're also screwed. And that's why you're going to create your brand awareness so that they see your brand in other places, and they've understood, hey, this brand, I've seen them before. I got to get in touch with them.
It's interesting as you start and go down the rabbit hole on this conversation a bit, is how important every piece of this is, starting with the very essence of strategy, and then how you play that out to engender trust for people to actually do business with you. Because anywhere along that chain could easily fall over if you don't have the big picture, the plan in mind, and you're not playing out accordingly to the style of people you're trying to attract. People will see it and say they'll call the bullshit out, and they just won't do business with you. And that ruins you as an individual as well as your business name. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, love it. Excellent. Mate, the other piece I want to talk about, and this is a big subject, so hold on for this one, everybody, is the importance of cybersecurity protection. For businesses, and then what are some of the issues, pitfalls, and hacks that are around the cybersecurity space? Now, we know here in what I would have thought was a very unassuming, uninteresting business, it's very strategically focused to brokers in Australia, right? It's pretty narrow. The amount of times we tried to get people try to hack us, and we've got brilliant security here, and they never get through. The only things you get through is the odd dodgy email, but it's not actually getting anything. It's trying to hook you into something. Cybersecurity, and we've seen it with Medicare, and who else was it? One of the financial
Optus.
Attitude. That's what I was saying. That to me, a lot of that says they just weren't dealing with best practice. And I might be very wrongly placed to say that, but how is it a little business like this can protect itself so well? And maybe because we're smaller and so on, but because we don't have the huge amounts of data that they have. But these big businesses are getting nailed by cyber attacks. So give us your thoughts around the importance of that. And obviously, I think we're all crosswise important, but issues, pitfalls, and hacks that you might be able to share with us around that cybersecurity conversation.
Yeah, see, cybersecurity, as you said, impacts everybody. Okay, and we saw what happened to Optus. Their brand got ruined, during that time. Medibank, wasn't as bad, but still financially huge impact. So what happens when you have a cybersecurity event, if your incident, it impacts everything. It impacts everything about your business. And for small businesses, like especially finance brokers, financial houses, we keep customer data. We have a lot of customer data. So we have to be extra careful. And in Australia, last year, we had a cyber security attack. Nearly every 7 minutes. No, more than every 7 minutes.
Wow.
And the year before, it was every 8 minutes. And the year before, it was near every 10 minutes. So this is going to be happening. A cybersecurity attack is going to happen nearly every minute, really. And it is so easy to happen. And for hackers to get in, if they want to get into any one of our organizations, if we're not careful, they will get in. So there are simple things we can do. Like I'm sure the reason FBAA is secure is because of the safeguards you take. So the first thing we must do is to make sure, these are simple things. All the software of all our devices are kept updated. So your ring, your watch, in this case, my watch, the laptops, desktops you use, anything you use, we got to make sure the software is updated. Where a lot of business owners do well is because their laptops are updated, their phones are updated, because it happens automatically. Yeah. Where a lot of business owners are failing is their websites also need to be updated. And a website is a bunch of about 10 to 20 pieces of software brought together.
Yeah.
And on a master platform. So the master platform must be updated, and all these other plugins or little pieces of software must also be kept updated. Okay, so that is an important thing. So there you go. If you don't do that, hackers come through your website.
Our tech manager is always honest about that. Make sure everything's updated as it's due.
And you have a backup. So you have updated and you have a backup. So if you can't stop a hacking operation happen, but if you have a backup, you can recover very fast. Your reputation is restored. Yeah. Otherwise, you lose everything. I met a photographer couple in Piermont at some business chamber function in Piermont I was speaking at. They told me they lost 15 years of photography on their website. They stopped the business, Peter. They said, we can't do our business. We're going to retire, or they're going to go and do something else. Okay, so that's a shock. Okay, the other things we can do is to make sure our staff are trained on the things you said. If you get a text, an email, a telephone call, these are phishing operations that happen. So our staff are trained. These guys, everybody knows of this, but they're so smart. These phishing. I nearly got caught once because I thought it was one of my children. Because now AI, in your last Q&A, you were talking about AI and ChatGPT. People are using AI to replicate your children's voice.
Oh, really?
So there you go. So phishing is getting more and more sophisticated. So that's one. The other is every business must have risk management. I always tell our small business owners, make sure you have a fortnightly risk management meeting and you have a checklist that you go through this, and it has to happen. These are little things we can do to make sure we are protected.
Yeah. As you say, they're little things we can do, but they actually formulate a big protection plan in each of their own rights. Because I know, like I said, that our guy here is always honest to make sure we're keeping Chrome up to date and all. Anything else we've got, he takes care of the website and make sure all those little components are all up to date. Extremely vigilant in that sort of area. We have multiple backups of things. If we get random at any stage, and we did back about, we're still over in Stones Corner at the time. So that's a couple of offices ago. So it was probably about 10 years ago or so. We got held to one of those ransomwares. They couldn't access the data, but they locked us out of it. Right. And they wanted like 100 grand or something like that. We said, bugger you. We backed up from the day before and kept going. So we're very fortunate we had very vigilant on our backups. And yes, we lost a few hours work, but we were able to catch up on that very, very quickly.
Yeah. But, so you had backup. I mean, that was priceless. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Imagine if you didn't have that backup.
Was it in the days of tapes? So, yeah, you just read. Put the latest cassette in and away it went. But yeah, so we were fine, and we weren't going to roll over to anyone like that. But yeah, we just backed up, and they said we lost a few hours work, but it's nothing we couldn't get on top of at the time. But we've had nothing since, touch wood.
Peter, one more thing I didn't say was when we collect customer data, we must have a very clear process of handling that customer data. Ideally to use service providers who are authorized to hold that data. And so that's something we need to have some diligence around. I should have mentioned that during.
And that's an interesting piece for brokers, because you may hold a certain amount of data. You then forward that to your aggregator or to the lender to process through a system. So I guess there's a few pieces in that chain, depending on what model you're using in our industry, as to it's all well and good to protect your data. You just got to make sure it happens down the track as well, that it's protected, encrypted, and is as safe as what it can be made, even though somebody else might get hacked. But if it's your data, someone's going to throw mud at you and it's going to stick. So you got to take a step. Yeah. Yeah. Mate, we're just about out of time. And interestingly enough, there hasn't been any questions as yet come through to me, which means we must have nailed it, my friend, which is good. Have you got any last closing thoughts for everyone who's watching in regards to whether it's the strategy they engage, how they work with their referrals, their digital plans, or even cyber? Is there any sort of last little tip you want to leave with people to say, make sure you think about this and get it right?
Yeah, this is something I tell every business owner we deal with. Everybody goes into business, Peter, because they want more time for themselves and they want more money. But every business owner I speak with tell me they're time poor. So then what is the purpose? Okay, so that again is about strategy. Okay, and if we get our strategy right and we do our marketing right, we'll never have cash flow issues. Yeah. Right. If you have a cash flow issue, that means you have a marketing issue. So get your strategy right, nail your branding, strategy, marketing, and do it consistently. And it really pays to do it, but you just got to commit to that. That's all.
Yeah, very wise words. Dinesh, thank you, my friend. I really appreciate your time spent with us this morning on Q&A, and some incredibly great insights there that we all can learn from and adapt to. And of course, if people want to know a lot more and want to reach out, we will be sending around some information to those that have joined us and be able to speak to you direct if they wish. But thank you, my friend. Have a great week, and I look forward to our next conversation. Take care.
Thank you, Peter. It's been an absolute pleasure, and congratulations on all the great work you do for the FBAA in the public sphere, in the political sphere, in all that policy-making area as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Dinesh. Thanks. All right. Thank you very much. All righty, folks. Well, that's a wrap for Q&A this month, and appreciate you spending some time with us. Please, if you want to know more about NetStripes, you can reach out to Dinesh. It'll be a link in the information that we send out. Of course, we want to thank our sponsors for supporting us. And the other thing you need to remember is keep an eye open for our next Q&A next month. Another great conversation will be coming up on the 13th of July. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody then. And you will get an email from us with your code for CPDs and a quick survey just to give us some feedback. Anyhow, until then, be well. Oh, and don't forget, 3rd November this year is our conference down at Royal Pines on the Gold Coast during the day and Movie World at night. Registrations will open probably in the next week. So get ready for that. It's going to be a big event. Take care, everyone. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye for now.